All right, welcome to the Golf Coach Podcast. Richard, how you going, brother?
I'm going great, Tobes. And yourself?
Mate, I'm doing really well. I'm doing well.
Good,
I
good.
had a little bit of a rough sleep, to be honest with you, but I still did my best. I got to the gym
Nice.
this morning. You wish
That
you'd
a
be
boy.
proud of.
Good man.
Hey,
That's it.
hey, before I get started, how's fatherhood going, brother? I want to ask
Fa-
you.
Fatherhood's good. Yeah, it's been obviously a bit of an adjustment, but no, mate, it's the
Yeah,
most gratifying job in the world, right? So no, she's doing amazing, and we're well adjusted, and no,
yeah,
couldn't be happier to be perfect.
yeah. I always say, and that's great to hear, and it's good to hear that. Like I'm a proud father too, and I say to people, I think it's the hardest thing you'll do, but the best thing you'll do.
Absolutely, yeah, and it offers up challenges, but yeah, together myself and Alison, Alison picks up a lot, picks up a lot of the workload,
Yeah,
but no,
yeah.
we're doing really well, and no, she's developing beautifully, so we couldn't be happier.
Do you feel like for me, right? Like I was a bit of a crazy kind of risk seeker, and even when I was last in Bali, right, I always wore a helmet on my scooter because I kept thinking if I crash, my kids need me. You know what I mean? Like my whole perspective had changed. It wasn't about me anymore. So
Absolutely,
all
yeah. I
those
mean,
risks I was
yeah,
taking are gone.
100%. Yeah, and I feel that now a lot with travel. With the travel I have to do with golf,
Yep.
with it be going away for a tournament week. I mean, I used to absolutely love the idea of traveling and experiencing going all around the world and so forth. But now
Yeah.
it definitely brings it in perspective, and those trips are a little harder. That's for darn sure.
I reckon. Yeah, I
Yeah.
truly do. I believe the same thing. Hey, so basically, if people listening to this, I reckon there's a very good chance that everyone knows, have a good chance who Richard Woodhouse is. You're up at KDV. How do you pronounce it? What's it? KDV Sport Academy? Is it called?
Yeah, KDV Sport, and we're at the Golf Academy. We have two academies here. We have the Tennis Academy and the Golf Academy. So I'm the
Yeah.
director of instruction of the Golf Academy.
And is that, would I be right in saying here that that's a high performance type of place?
100% it is. Yeah, we have somewhat two streams to the business. So we have a high performance stream, which is obviously the space that I'm deeply involved in. But the
Yeah.
facility is built for the everyday recreational golfer as well, and for that matter, in the tennis environment also. So the example of that would be we've got a 40 bay driving range,
Yeah.
mini putt here, so the recreational golfer can come and use the place, and then in the tennis environment as well. We've got obviously Jason Kubler just won the doubles at the Oz Open, and he trains here with
Look at
Bunty
that.
at the tennis academy. So they've done a very very good job in accommodating for both the high performance and basically getting people into the game. So the more people in the game, the better for us.
Was it built with the intentions of having that high performance there originally?
Yeah, it was. So when I got approached back in my goodness 2012, it was.
Yeah.
They wanted to build a facility that can develop world class athletes. So
Yeah.
with that in mind, that's what we've done, and hopefully we're starting to get some wonderful results from the players,
Yeah.
uh, and the achievements are starting to really roll in.
Have you always been attracted to high performance? Was that always what you were going to be doing when you became a coach?
I was, yeah, really from an early point, from an early stage. So basically, from when I got out of my time and started coaching, obviously there's the evolution of it, but of coaching. But I always thrived on coaching the best players in the world, and actually to be honest, to becoming the best coach I could possibly be. And I think organically that transitions in towards working with better players, and I don't take that job lightly. It's a big responsibility. I respect I'm dealing with people's livelihoods and career paths. So
Mm,
with that being said,
yeah.
obviously, it's a joint accountability as a coach between the player and the coach. So, no, I love it. It creates a little more pressure in the environment, and I thrive off
Mm.
that.
Yeah. No, I understand that. And it's interesting how you mentioned there about the accountability between player and coach. That's something that you harp on. That's something that you kind of really hammer down a lot. Like it's not all on you. You try to put a lot of it back on the player.
I do, yeah. Like I think one of my coaching traits is I try to educate the players to a point whereby they have a lot of autonomy for when they both
Yeah.
practice, play, and travel. So one of the ways I somewhat coach is try to impart the skill set, educate the player so they understand themselves inside out, both whether that be from a technical perspective, psychological perspective, physical perspective, practice, travel, the whole lot. So
Yeah.
it's on me to give them the correct information, which means I have to keep my skill set high and continuously educate myself. And
Yeah.
but then obviously then it's on them to report in and do the right job on their behalf as well. So we use different means of there's software that we can talk about that I use for players to keep track of stats, to keep track of practice plans,
Yeah, I'm excited to get into that.
reporting in and so forth. So yes, it's a joint accountability.
So from like, you know, before we get stuck into a few things, like from a coach's perspective, people listening, we get lots of coaches that listen in, right? When you wanted to go down this, you know, down the high performance route, right? Not dealing with like, I guess, so much more the recreational golfer, which I think, you know, you still might do now and then,
Yeah,
but, you know, you're heavily involved in it. What was your kind of education around like, what do you think is required essentially for your job? Like, it's obviously learning how to deal with players, right? Managing players and technique. There's a lot more to it. You know, like there's lots of I probably classify myself more as a swing coach than anything. But what kind of banners do you think that you have to be an expert in to kind of be looking after high performance players?
I think it's really broad, like in the early
Yeah.
days. So definitely, I have to be across the board in many factors. So I guess
Mm.
originally, biomechanics, ball flight law, whether it be
Yep.
TrackMan work, 3D work, basic psychology. Understanding ground reaction forces. So from a technical perspective, your technical knowledge of how of whether it be through the golf swing or through putting, whatever it may be, I think needs to be uh, very detailed and broad. And then I think ultimately, then it comes down to building relationships, setting good examples, being able to be a good communicator. So between a lot of the time when you're working high performance, you're working within a team. So I have a team of
Yep.
service providers around an athlete, whether it be the physio, the psych, the nutritionist, other coaches. So basically, you have to be able to delegate and communicate really well also. But ultimately, when you're working in that high performance space, you're often just you are the direct shoulder to lean on when those players are. It's not fun. It's not roses
No.
all the time out there when they're out
Mm.
there playing, mate. So you're
No.
often you're the person on the other end of the phone call dealing with those calls late at night or early in the morning, or the messages just.
Mm.
So have to be a little bit selfless in terms of being able to always be there for the player. So communication, I think, is one of the biggest skill sets, as well as the technical knowledge, which I think is just forever evolving, and I just love learning more about whether it be biomech or aim point or stat keeping or strokes gained, whatever it may be, any little edge to make those players better.
And yeah, it kind of really brings it back. Like that's a lot to take in, right? But it really brings it back to what you mentioned at the start as well, because for instance, right, a lot of the recreational golfer in my experience, you know, expects to come for a lesson and everything to be fixed and looked after, right? You know, like they expect me to be the mechanic and the car's off and
Mm.
running. Where when you described everything that's going on there, the player has got to be on top of everything, or otherwise they're not going to make it, right? Like the player has to be so diligent and so precise and so committed because talent's not going to get them past all that, you know?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
that they have to be. Yeah, I mean, at a high performance level, they just have to know what strings to pull, and that comes down to us being across the board. No, they need to know themselves inside and out.
Yeah.
So, being able to pull the right strings in the context of was it swing mechanics, or was it performance anxiety? What was it that actually is going? What was it, or what is it that's going to make them improve? And using
Yeah.
testing protocol through practice and reflective work after post tournaments, that's where we draw on that feedback, we draw on those answers.
That performance anxiety, I think that is really undervalued or underappreciated in regards to how it needs to be trained, isn't it? Like you've got to look at that Rory McIlroy, how he just I was just watching the end of that tournament in Dubai the other night when he holed that putt on the last, and they switched to another guy in his playing group. I don't know his name, but he's had a good little run, and he's been playing hot golf the last few weeks. And in the last round in the Dubai Desert Classic, I think it's called, and he was playing with Rory, and he shot like a 76 or something. You know, like had a nightmare day, dropped back from T2 to 20 or whatever. And when he's sitting down at the end of the day, surely he's looking at that and just going, I just got to get used to being in that situation, right?
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. And you just hit the nail on the head. Being in that situation, being the being the man in the arena, so to speak. You have to become comfortable in being in that environment. And will you ever be comfortable? No, you won't. But ultimately, you have to learn how to accept those pressures and to accept those nerves, and be comfortable in being uncomfortable. And the more you get to put yourself in that position, and it's no different to whether it be a coach or a player, right? Like if you're a coach up giving a speech in front of 300, 400, 500 people, like you're uncomfortable. So you just have to lean on your knowledge that you know to give to those people. No different for the player. They're not going to be comfortable on that first tee box, but they have to lean on their self-belief. Hey, I've trained the skill. I'm ready for this. And we're blessed to have some pretty good sports psychs, the likes of Jonah Oliver, who works with Cam and his team. He offloads a lot of information. I learned a lot from him about how to deal with that performance anxiety.
What about? Did you go to the Greg Norman Medal last year or this year?
Not this current year. No, I didn't.
Mate, Cam was up there talking, right? But he was talking about his Open Championship win, and on the 71st hole, I don't even remember it that much, but he missed it. He missed it right, dead behind a bunker or something, right? And his caddy started talking to him at the State of Origin and trying to distract him because he knew how difficult the shot was. Apparently, he was the only person all day to miss it there. Anyways, he got up there and they said, "How are you dealing with the nerves?" And Cam said, "I like it when I can't feel my hands." He goes, "When I can't feel my hands and I'm super nervous," he goes, "that's when I play my best golf, and I love being in that situation." And I got goosebumps now still thinking about it, going, "You're a freak. Like that's unheard of."
And we see it, right? Some players just absolutely love that pressure and thrive on that pressure, and it brings out the best of them. And others just can't stand it. And it's that's where professional golf or professional sport, it's not for everyone, right? And that's why you sometimes see those highly talented people just not kick on, because they just I have so much respect for those guys and girls who are out there doing it. It's
Mate,
if the general population knew how hard it was to get to play at that level, it's mind blowing what they do.
Mate, if I'm not 6 ahead against my mates going down the last hole, I'm still thinking, you know what? I could make an 11 here, and they could make a 4, and I could lose.
Exactly. You got it. Yep. Yeah.
And
slightly different stakes. Yeah.
Oh, unbelievable. Hey, all right. I wanted to get you. I also wanted to talk to you about like a few different topic areas, like habits and disciplines and routines and strategies around it.
Yep.
I've heard you on a podcast before, and I'm not too sure if this is still your routine. Can you tell me what a day looks like for you? You don't have to go into extreme detail, but when does it start? When does it finish?
It's pretty straight. It's been the same, mate, for probably about the last 20 years or at least 15, 20 years anyway. It's rinse and repeat. I get up at 3-ish, just before, eat, train, eat again, come to work, coach all day, go home and then spend time with my family, basically. And that's the really short version of it. But essentially, yes, for me, the start of the day is my key. That is my time to myself. So I enjoy getting up early. I get up, I go and train, I do some resistance, I go for a walk for about 30 to 45 minutes. And then I basically go to the gym, do some resistance training. And I just describe that as, I guess, years ago it was, genuinely to get fitter and stronger, but now it's 100% just mental clarity more than anything. It's no one's annoying. I shouldn't say annoying me, but no one's. It's my time to myself. So basically,
no distraction.
Absolutely, yes. It's an opportunity where I get to do a lot of thinking, or listen to podcasts or whatever it may be. But for me, it starts my day and it sets my day up to whereby I feel I feel energized for my day ahead, and I feel like I coach better throughout the day if I start my day like that. So, um, yeah, I mean, it's I just love it.
Yeah.
That's
So
the way I do it.
I get up at 4:45 about 4 or 5 days a week, and if I have a rough night or if I have a late night with a couple of Zoom calls, I'll take my eldest to the gym in the afternoon.
Okay.
But I get weird looks when I tell people I get up at 4:45, right?
Yeah.
But from my experience as well with that is I have all my phones and my iPads and laptops. I keep them in here because in my golf studio where I teach, because for myself, right, when I like this is me personally talking, and you talk about your time, right? Like that time to me is more mental than anything as well for
Hmm.
me right now. Like I was talking to my wife this morning. Like I built some beautiful relationships with people at the gym. If you want to meet some people who are dedicated and who are going good in their craft, you go to the gym at 4:45 and you'll meet them.
Yeah.
There's no one at 4:45. They all own businesses. They all have families or athletes or trying to get their second session in. Like they're the type of people I want to be hanging out with, right? But for me, I can't personally, Richard, I can't take my phone because I'll end up replying to messages, looking at Instagram, distracting myself. How do you go when you get up at that time in the morning? Are you open to looking through your phone at that time of the day?
Yeah, it is. Like I think, while I still get up, I still do check my messages, and because I have players,
Yeah.
for that matter, they could be in different time zones, and I know I
Yes.
shouldn't do it, but I still do it. I often don't sometimes send a reply at that time in the morning because obviously people don't want to hear from me at 3 a.m. But but then again, if someone messages me late at night and wakes me up, they might get a message back at 3 o'clock in the morning. So as a bit of payback. But
Yes.
ultimately, yeah, like I do try to genuinely treat it as my time. And then kick my day off. I get into work, get into the academy at around about 6:30, 7 o'clock, and get my day set up, and then ready for a big day of coaching ahead, on whatever capacity that may be.
I tell you why I like it as well, mate, is it gives my brain a bit of a chance to wake up to, and also it gets me on. I come home straight away and my kids are generally
Yeah,
still asleep, and then I'll end up making the breakfast. We cook breakfast, and I feel like I'm in a really good state because I've trained, I've had time to myself, and I've got more of myself to give.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
You know what I
I
mean?
do.
Do you
I do
agree?
100% agree. Absolutely. I think it's
Yeah.
there is something about the endorphins that get let off, obviously, when you do train and stay
Mm.
healthy, and I love the feeling of feeling healthy and feeling strong and feeling fit. And I think it's often, especially with the players I get to work with, I think it sets a pretty good example as well. I'm a bit of a
Yes.
believer of, I'm not going to ask those players to do something that maybe I wouldn't be prepared to do myself. So as in,
Yeah.
coming from a perspective of when I was an athlete, when I was playing, or whether it be golf or other sports, is that you get out of this game what you put into it, and it is hard. Like, it's hard work, and not being and
Yeah.
being able to relate to those players on that level, I think is really important from a high performance
Yeah.
perspective.
I agree. It's like going to a health practitioner that doesn't look after themselves.
Yeah,
Like you're in the wrong
yeah,
place. You're in the wrong place, if you
that's
ask me.
it. That's it.
Hey, all right. So tell me about obviously that just did building that habit, for instance, for the person listening to this, how do they start to how do you start to learn discipline and building habits? Like, where do you start this? Say from
Yeah.
someone who doesn't even train at the minute.
I think it starts from I call it what your why is. Like, why do you do it, or why do you want to do it?
Yeah.
For me, I think it is that combination of leading from the front, setting a good example, but also, again, doing it from from my own, for myself as well. Like, and again, like, it comes down to what you want as a person. Now,
Mm,
what you have to establish what is important to you. It's important to me to stay
mm,
fit, to stay healthy, to be a good father, to be a good role model for the players, and part of that comes down to the habits that I build in, day out. Now, when it comes to building habits, it's not rocket science. It's just consistency. And what I would describe as probably one of my biggest for a term, hacks that I would have for anybody
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
and this could be golf or just day-to-day life, is basically removing decision fatigue. So decision fatigue on the golf course and in day-to-day life is a real thing. The less decisions we have to make, the better we are going to perform. So, for example, if you're on a golf course, if
Mm,
I can limit the amount of decisions that I have to make through understanding good course strategy or understanding my tendencies with my golf game, or whether that be for myself at 3 o'clock in the morning, knowing, okay, as opposed to waking up going, darn, what should I have for breakfast or what should I have for lunch? If that's already pre-made and it's sitting in the fridge, I pull it out and I go. For me,
yeah.
every single morning, my gym clothes are laid out before I go to bed. My work bag's already packed with all of my FootJoy and Titleist gear. It's already in the bag, ready to go. So I literally wake up,
Yeah.
shower, go. There's absolutely no decisions that I make in the morning. So if I can
Mm,
limit decision making, habits are going to be created. If I have too many decisions to make,
yeah.
inconsistency comes in. If inconsistency comes in, habits aren't formed, then basically then people don't commit or stay on task.
Yeah. Oh God, I love that. I love that. You even hear that a lot. Like for instance, like Zuckerberg wearing the same clothes every day.
Yeah, I mean
You know,
it's
or someone like Bill Gates or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, I mean it's a real thing, right? Like it's the amount of time I laugh with some of the guys I even work with, or they're in the cafe every day, ordering or buying food, like, and that's expensive too, like, so from
Yeah.
my point of view, if my lunch is in the fridge and and I'm, call me crazy, but I don't mind eating the same thing every day. I quite enjoy it, like
Same.
it's I enjoy my breakfast. I enjoy my snacks. I enjoy my lunch, and it's
Same.
rinse and repeat Monday to Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday rolls around, and myself and my family, we head out, we go for breakfast or lunch somewhere else. But it's
Yep.
I've got time to have that, for a term, mental break, and I don't need that strict organization that I would need throughout the week.
I'm the same. I've got to eat the same. I do eat the same breakfast every day.
Love it.
You know, I I have the same thing every single day. My wife's just like, "What do you want to get from Woolworths?" And I'm like, "We need to get 4 steaks. We need to
Yeah,
get 56 eggs. We need to get two
yeah.
barbecue chickens." I know exactly
The
what the
order
order
stays the
is. She
same,
goes,
mate. Yeah, that's right.
and I tell her because like it's over 7 days is what we
Yeah,
have, you know. And we go out once a morning for
yeah,
breakfast, one time a week,
yeah.
just mainly for the wife, right? She likes that stuff.
Absolutely.
So I also like that when you talk about habits and decision making, are you kind of limiting the chance of doubt happening there as well?
Absolutely.
Like,
Like,
yeah,
and don't get me wrong, like, there's days where I do not want to go and train, or I do not want to, uh, get out of bed or whatever it may be. But I just know the benefits of it at the back end of at the back end of the routine or the back end of the session. I know I coach better. I know I'm a better friend. I'm a better husband. I'm a better father if I'm staying healthy. So, um,
yeah,
it's yeah. I never use the word sacrifice. It's more choice. Okay, so I don't think we have
yeah.
to sacrifice anything. We just make choices to ultimately to fuel the way we feel.
Yes. Yeah, I like that. I like that as well. I kind of yeah. It's a good one there. It is a choice, right?
Absolutely, it is.
It is a choice. And and for me, like I think discipline can like we only eat organic food in our house, right? Like we only have healthy food in our house. My wife shops, at the local groceries. It costs me fucking 4 times at Woolies to get into Woolies, but that's okay. I just went and bought 2 liters of milk this morning for $8. But the for me as well, I'm talking there about choices, right? And that discipline is if some chocolate does creep into my house, Richard, it's gone.
100%.
Like if there's a lint block in my house, right? When I mean gone, I fucking eat it straight away. Like I can't not. So my discipline is good to the fact of my discipline is good because of the environment I've created.
Yeah.
Essentially, is what I'm trying to get there. You know what I mean? Like the chocolate there is still dark chocolate. Don't put it anywhere near me. It's taken.
And that environment crosses over to, you want to talk about coaching and players practicing. The environments we build in a practice environment are no different to the environments we build in our household. So the environments are
Yeah,
either productive or they're non-productive. Okay, so
yeah,
that's where creating plans, being aware of consequence, being aware of and that's again, it comes down to your why. Why do you eat the foods you do? Why do you practice the way you do? Why do you travel the way you do? It all
Yeah.
fuels your greater purpose.
Mm. Hey, all right, and that leads me right to my next question is I guess through my whole life and, as I've evolved into like fatherhood and gone through the party scene and gone through my coaching thing and I feel like I'm always been very much a victim of my environment who I kind of surround myself with,
Mm,
right? And I call some people like energy vampires. They just zap you of your energy, right? And I got that from Dandapani, which is a monk
yeah,
um, who runs a few monasteries. And to me, I think it's really important to surround yourself like with the right people, right?
100% it is.
And how have you gone about that? And have you had to evolve that as you've gotten older? And I particularly, I guess, maybe into fatherhood, you probably had to devote
Yeah,
less time.
absolutely.
How have you gone with that?
Absolutely. I mean, I definitely seek out advice, and so to this day, like I have a nutrition coach who helps me out. Now, do I need to for a term learn more about nutrition? Probably not, but I still hold myself accountable to somebody.
Mm,
And then also then from a professional point of view, I definitely stay in contact with. There's a select bunch of coaches who I have the utmost respect for, both domestically and internationally, who we stay in contact with, and that's the beautiful thing with it through Instagram with the likes of yourself
mm,
and Carrot or whoever domestically or the
mm,
guys in the US who I've had the beauty of knowing for many years and um, surrounding yourself and keeping in contact and keeping at the forefront of being open to learning, I think is really
mm,
important. And then we transition that back then into the academy with how players practice. So the way we structure our high performance stream is basically it's not just on skill level; it's on their human skills as well. So basically, what I'm trying to
yeah.
say with that is if we had player A who plays off scratch, yes, that 16-year-old might be suitable for our high performance program, but if their human skills are playing off 36 and they can't work as a team, we'll give them the
Mm.
opportunity to develop. But if they're not willing to develop and fit in with that team, they're not going to be part of our high performance program. So we try to get like-minded people who are all not only trying to be great people, great golfers, excuse me, but really develop them into good people as well throughout the programs.
And that's setting a standard too, right?
It is. Everybody's held accountable. It comes back to that
Mm,
accountability factor. So when they come down, when we form teams or form groups down here, they work together. They learn how to work together. They learn how to problem solve together. Um, and due to that, we start. I mean, some of the students I work with now are some of my best friends. They're this wonderful, wonderful
yeah.
people, and I think that's just a credit to my coaching staff who we have here, plus the culture that we build within our programs.
That's, yeah, I love it. I even heard something once, right, around they were picking Navy SEALs and they have these three types of categories. And I can't remember them all, like what they were. I'm just paraphrasing here, but one was like obviously skill level, and then one was like fitness or something. Like one was like awareness, fitness, and the other one was the ability to work in a team.
Mm,
And they showed you where they prioritized on how they picked them. And it was always the person who was the most unselfish, and in the way that they could work in a team and was as a human,
mm,
always was getting picked more before the highly skilled person. Like so it was
yeah.
there was a bit of a balancing act they had, and obviously there is a point of no return. You can't get someone who's too much, but yeah, it was an interesting kind of way of looking at it of that type of skill level because I'm sure you've seen it, right? Like how many talented golfers have not made it?
Absolutely, and it and it comes
Nothing to do with
and
talent.
it comes down to their values on and off the golf course, and we establish those. We've just had the from a timing perspective, we run our programs on school terms essentially, and in the
Mm,
first session we just establish values. What are your values as a human being? Whether that be honesty, humble, team player, whatever it may be. But we get them to list out their values, and ultimately, then
mm,
if they say to us, "Okay, these are our 5 core values as a human being," we go, "Great, guys. Okay, as a team, that's what they are. when we work together, we're all accountable to those, and they're allowed to call each other out if they're not that. So, for example, if humility is one of them, and they're showing excessive cockiness or whatever it may be when they
Yeah.
win, or
Yeah.
they're not,
Yeah.
when they lose, they don't, they don't know how to deal with it. We get the other guys to, they call them out and they talk about it. So, um,
Mm.
so, and you see those human skills developing over the term, over the year, and that's where you start to. I personally believe that's where you start to see the true skill level of the player shine through in tournament golf, because they understand themselves well as a person, and as well as a golfer as well.
Oh, it's good that. And it's surprising you say that, right? Lots of like good players who, if you're lucky to like meet some of the kids that are knocking about, right? Like Harrison Crowe, Jeffrey Guan and stuff. You meet these kids and you shake their hand. They're just good people
They're
too.
great
You know,
people.
really
I
good
travelled
people.
over
Really good.
last January. I took Justice Bozio and Jeff Guan over to the Adam Scott Jr. over in California,
Oh,
and
mm,
it was the first time I met Jeff, and he was just he was just a first class human being to travel away with, and that's my memory. See Jeff now at tournaments. That's my memory of him when he won the golf tournament. He won it by a country mile, but what left a
yeah,
lasting impression on me. He was just a really good person to travel with. No different to Justice. Absolutely gorgeous girl inside and out in terms of how she deals with people, speaks to people, and then as a result, the golf skills are just developing
yeah.
in a stunning way as well.
And that Jeffrey Guan, mate, he has every excuse to be a cocky
Yeah,
because he is fucking good.
yeah,
Jeez, he's good.
yeah. They all are. And
Ah,
that's where
yeah.
if you have that humility and you have that, you have those really deep core, quality
Mm,
values. You're just going to go a long way in this game, because
yeah.
I say that to the guys and girls. Like. Becoming good at this game, you're going to need sponsors. You're going to need to talk to people. You're going to need to play
Yeah.
pro-ams. You're going to have to do all of those things, and people
Yeah.
want to spend. Good people gravitate towards each other. And if you're a
Yeah.
dick, you're not going to go. You're not going to go very far.
And you got to offer them value too, right?
Correct.
Like you got to offer value to a sponsor
Yeah.
or to someone who's willing to help you out. And even if it's just being around influential people who can help you, and if you can't carry yourself in somewhat of a manner with some humility and, be kind and hold some nice manners, then it doesn't matter how good you are.
That's
No
right.
one's going to want to be surrounded by you. You're going to have to get there on your own, essentially.
100%.
So, all right. So tell me now about switching into golf practice,
Hmm.
right? And training. Um, this is one that I've been working closely a lot with all my online subscribers now is really taking control as much as I can of people's training,
Hmm.
and which is difficult through online. But I've kind of gone through a few different strategies around. Uh, People say I've got 3 days to practice. I can practice 3 afternoons. I've got into the habit of breaking them down into blocks. So, say for instance, we work out that they've actually got 9 hours in the week to practice.
Hmm.
So I individualize those into 9 blocks, and then we start to build those blocks together on what's required to kind of build their golf game, right? That's about as basic as I can kind of put it. In regards to, what you've been dealing with there, apart from like the technical aspect is obviously key when there's with you one-on-one, how high do you put the training up against it? And what does a typical kind of training day look like, for the kids there or
Yeah.
for like a high performance athlete?
Yeah. So like yourself, Tobes, basically you have to establish what the objective is with the practice session first and foremost. So I always describe it as there's two factors. What's the intention, and then where does your
Yeah.
attention actually go? So what is your intention with your practice session? So is the intention on swing mechanics? Is it on putting? If it's a technical skill development, what's the intention? And then what's the attention go to in order to develop that skill? So if you are working on something with your golf swing, okay, they set a clear intent on what they want to achieve over that time period, and then they have, whether it be through swing video or ball flight or whatever it may be, any factor that I've given them to be aware of, that's what their attention is going to go on.
Yeah.
Then on the other side of the equation is performance. So performance
Yeah.
is creating is improving a skill set in a performance environment, i.e. on the golf course or simulated environment on your practice facility. With that being said, we have to be able to have a benchmark to work towards. So
Yeah.
I use I'm on the advisory board of a company called Draw More Circles, which is a stats keeping
Yes.
company. The
Yeah.
guys are absolutely incredible to work with. They have the ability to I give the players keep their stats for me. When I say keep their stats, they basically just record where they hit each golf shot from. That goes into our software. From there, I have all of their strokes gained metrics in every single category. Basically, what we
Yeah.
then have is we have that benchmarked against where they want to be. So is that benchmarked against, say, female scratch or male scratch? Is it benchmarked against pro ready, PJ Tour level, LPGA, whatever their desired NCAA, whatever their desired benchmark may be? From there, we then identify key areas whereby they have the biggest gaps between their performance and what their benchmark goal is to be. So
Yeah.
say, for example, they have all of these different metrics, but then we establish that 7 to 21 foot putting, greenside bunker play, and under 7 foot putting are the three areas where they have the largest gaps between their performance and their
Yeah.
benchmark. We then design a practice plan relative to those areas being improved first and foremost. And basically through the software, the guys or girls log in, they go to their practice log, it brings up those particular skill sets, it has a bespoke goal for them. So say, for example, 7 to 21 feet, they might currently be making 1 out of 10, for example. I'm just pulling a figure out. The goal will be
Yeah.
set 10% harder than what their benchmark needs to be. They then have to go and achieve that practice goal, and they record that goal and they send it to me. So the accountability is on them to practice. The drills and the skills are there for them to practice. They record the score, comes back to me as a coach. I then get to see, great, Justice is working on her this, and this. She's achieving her goal. Where that then transitions, or where we now can really understand the difference, the gaps between practice and play, is, say, for example, the player in question is achieving their practice goals. They're improving. Okay, so they go and
Yeah.
they do their drills, and the drills are very much randomized in the context where no two shots are the same. So, say,
Yes.
for example, you're doing 10 putts between 7 and 21 feet. None of those putts are from the same spot. They could be very, very random. Let's say, for example, the player is achieving that in practice. They're achieving their goals. They're improving. But then they go to the golf course and they play in a tournament, and they're not making as many putts as what they would in practice. The question then is, okay, so if the player is achieving in practice but not on the golf course, that is more of a performance skill set that we need to improve, i.e. dealing with pressure, dealing with performance anxiety, adaptation to environment, whatever it may be. On the opposite side of the ledger, if the player has got the performance skills to practice in the practice environment, say on the practice putting green, and they're not making those putts, they're not achieving their goal, that offers then the question for me to go, okay, is it a skill acquisition that they need to improve?
Yeah.
So my example I often say I give to players would be, say, if I come from a bit of a basketball background, if I'm shooting a free throw in the gym, empty gym after training, and I knock down 20 in a row.
Yeah. Yeah.
Clearly my technique's pretty good. I can handle it really well, but then I go to
Yeah.
a game and I make 40%. So I can't blame my technical skill. Something in that game, something in that environment is causing me to miss, whether it be the pressure of the moment or whatever it may be. So we have to establish as coaches and as players, is it technical skill development or is it performance skill development that the player needs to improve on? A lot of the time in my history of working with players is that players blame the wrong thing. They go and play golf, they have a score, they'll go, hey, Tobes, what's the common thing? I putted shit. Okay.
Yeah.
What does that mean? What
Yeah.
benchmarking against what is shit?
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
right?
But I say that every fucking day, Richard. I say, what is shit?
Yeah. So
That's what I say. I must say that 5 times a day. What is shit?
So if I can benchmark and I can measure and I can
Yeah.
draw feedback, I can improve practice habits, I can improve time efficiency. I I build players who are accountable to understanding the right areas. And
Yeah.
from first-hand experience, when players invest and understand that, it is incredible what they're achieving.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
would say,
I agree.
players were having great success at the moment. One of the girls I work with, Justice Bozio, she's embraced that completely, and she now understands exactly where she needs to improve. And as a result, her world ranking is plummeting. She's playing great golf, and
Right.
it's practicing smarter, not harder. Just the
Oh,
old thing. But it's hard to do that if you
I,
can't measure.
mate, you kept answering all my questions I had for you throughout that when you were talking then, and it was such a great way of explaining it all because the golf game is so deep, so complex, right? And we have limited time to practice, and we need to make sure we're associating our time in the right areas. It's kind of like walking into the gym and just, if you don't have a bit of a plan, then you're gonna say, "Oh, I'm gonna do biceps, tries, shoulders, chest, back. I might do a bit of rowing." You're not gonna get anywhere, right? Because you're not making any hard inroads there. Now, it's interesting to talk about as well is that when I break down players' rounds, particularly on Zoom with my players, I'll go through them. They might have gone and played a junior event in Portugal or whatnot. They go, I had 76. I go, let's work it out. So we go through statistics and we go, you just hit two bad drives.
Mm.
You hit two bad drives and didn't hold two putts you should have. Like it's not, you haven't played shit, and the same thing. It's like, I must say that all the time. And you answered it so well, like as well. In my case, majority of people do not know what they need to be working on unless they start measuring and taking statistics. Everyone's surprised.
Mate, golf, hands down, is the most poorly practiced sport on the planet. In
God,
the
love
in the
that.
context of and one of the things that gets at me is when players or parents say, "Oh, I just want to be more consistent." What can anybody? If anyone can tell me one thing that's consistent with golf, yeah, our environment's different every time. It's not like a basketball court where the lines are the same distance, the hoops the same height. The only thing,
Yeah.
yes, the cup's the same size, but the course is different, the environment's different, the tee time's different, the pressure is different. Everything is different. So therefore, you might play on a golf course whereby 66 is a possible score, but then the next day 76 is a good score. Well, 10
Yeah.
strokes different is not consistent. So we can't have consistency in outcome, but we could definitely have consistency in our approach to preparing the right way. And if
Yeah.
our consistency with that is understanding our game, understanding our practice tendencies, and working out how to practice properly, so basically hitting balls off a driving range which is dead flat to
Mm.
to a driving range which is 300 yards wide, and just going, okay, that felt good, so clearly I'm hitting it good. Well, how does that translate into actually performance? And
I know, I
so
know, I know, I know. And so what Richard's saying there to people listening as well is that, if you do have limited time to practice and you've only got the driving range, I'm okay with that too, right? If you can
100%.
only do that. But let's start just narrowing your focus, working through the golf bag, doing different types of performance type of training as well. Not just bashing seven irons and then one every four hitting a good one going, well, that felt good.
Yeah,
But the last three you've just hit to double, you made doubles.
yeah.
So try. So tell me sorry to ask you, cut you off there, but ask you a question around, let's say someone has measured their chipping is poor, right?
Hmm.
Let's say, I don't know what parameters you use, but let's just say from the rough 5 meters out,
Sure.
you know. And then they should be going through a form of testing so they can put it into draw more circles and they can say hit 5 balls and measure that.
Perfect. Yep.
Is that what they do? And then from there they can see what it looks like. So, and would you suggest when you're practicing that type of situation and measuring it that you don't hit too many from the same lie or the same
Yeah.
position? Is that what
So
you're saying?
basically, when we're logging our practice and we're measuring our practice, no two shots are the same. So the environment can
Yeah.
be the same. For example, 5 yards off the green in the rough, but the ball is always
Yeah.
dropped. We run a full process or full pre-shot process each time. You can change the golf clubs you use depending on the lie that the ball drops into, right? And that's
Yeah.
what I was trying to say about golf is poorly
Yeah.
practiced. How often
Yeah.
do you see players go and practice their chipping and to scrape the ball up onto a perfect lie every time, not run a pre-shot, to do everything differently to what they'd typically be experiencing on the golf course. So,
Yeah.
so the more simulation the more simulation work we can do, and the more we can bring realism into our practice and actually own that, and you know what, and not be afraid of failure either. The big thing is accepting accepting the outcome through quality process that we attach to the pre-shot or post-shot analysis, and that way then the player can provide the coach wonderful information, and we can then go, okay, well, if that player is not hitting those chip shots close from out of the rough, is it a technical skill? Is it maybe they just don't know how to read the lie? They don't understand that, okay, if the ball is sitting down, I create less friction, the ball comes out hotter, it doesn't spin as much. So the adaptation may not be there. But if we always practice from a good lie, high friction little nippers all the time, we're not getting that realism into our practice. So the big one for me is getting some true feedback back from the players and being able to work through those skills.
And I tell you what, when I hear that too, right, Richard, I hear that there's an opportunity there for players to also start to manage their expectations.
100%.
Because if you're nipping them off a nice little lie each time, right, hitting, a whole bag of balls or a bucket of balls from the one spot, chipping to the one flag, which is just a basic chip shot, and you hit a nip, like to inside a circle every time. And then you go to the golf course and all of a sudden it's slightly bare, a little bit more downhill, maybe a little bit too much grass, flags a little bit cut tighter. And all of a sudden you go, I've been chipping good in my practice. And how come I'm not hitting it to a foot today? Well, the environment's nowhere near what you're training. And I had a player yesterday in the golf course, and he said to me, it's the same yardage as the last hole. And I said, yeah, but I'm on a downhill lie. The pin's on the right. I'm into the wind. The last hole was uphill downbreeze. Like, it was a completely different shot. Even though it was the same number, in my brain it was like, this is so different from the last shot, I can't even explain to you.
Yes.
I might have the same yardage, but it's completely different.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's it's just being we call it pulling the right strings, right? Like, and that's just what we have to do as players and coaches is understand where we got to work and how we do it. I had a young girl in yesterday, wonderful, like, she's so dedicated to her craft, like she's doing really well. And her perception was she's not great off the tee, and we pulled her data up, and she's performing statistically better in terms of fairway percentage, but she's hitting it 20 yards too short. So that compounds into then the next golf shot being impacted, longer shot into the green, then that longer shot on the green leads to a bigger dispersion pattern on the green. So changing her focus from, you got to hit it straighter. No, you already hit it. You hit it almost too straight. Like you're outperforming your benchmark by 15% relative to where your benchmark needs to be, but you're not hitting it long enough. So therefore, what do we got to do? We got to get stronger. We got to move faster, learn how to move it quicker. So it's just a different perspective. So and that's where stats are great. That's where understanding stats, and understanding the impact that one statistical category has on another as well.
I tell you a similar, when you talk about that fairway one then, right, with your student, is Matthew Fitzpatrick. When he was like top 10 strokes gained off the tee at one point when he was short. Something like that, maybe 17th, something like crazy high, right? But he was the shortest in the top 30 on there. And he wanted to gain this distance, but the statistics kept telling him that he didn't need to, but he was like, I want to, like, there's something not right here, like you might say that your statistics are showing that I'm doing well because I'm hitting a lot of fairways, but I need to get further down there. And he started that journey with Dr. Sasha McKenzie, and he's done an amazing job.
Absolutely. I mean,
gaining that speed.
Golf now is a long hitter's game, right? You can't be short, and there is no short players out there, and even players who some, the public might perceive and not hitting it real far, they hit it far. There are no short hitters out on tour. There's no bad putters on tour. There's no players who have fear on tour. They're all fearless. All of those skills need to be trained, and I'm the first one to say that the stats are only as good as what the player commits to and what the coach commits to. So So I would say, if you're not keeping stats, if you're not aware of them, you definitely need to be. If your coach isn't using them, you need to encourage they do use them, because it becomes a pretty frustrating game when you don't improve, and you simply don't improve if you don't know how to improve.
And it's so hard to measure your improvement too.
That's
Don't you
right.
reckon? Without doing what you're doing, like the easiest way that I can talk to recreational golfer, like someone said to me yesterday, I'm off 6 handicap and I used to be off 2. I said, what's the difference? And he goes, I don't know. I'm like, well, I need to find that out.
Yeah.
And I asked him 20 questions before he hit a shot. I said, all right, when you get in the car and you drive home, what does it feel like you're more shit at than you used to not be? Like, can you give me something? And he goes, oh, I miss a lot of green short now. I'm like, oh, good, we're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to draw the statistics from this guy because he's got an hour with me and I've got to somehow try and find these 4 shots and where they're gone missing.
Absolutely.
And he's got nothing for me. It's like walking in a doctor's office, just standing and not opening your mouth. I'm like, can you give me something?
You got it, Tobes, and that's where setting expectations is so important, and that's with every single player that I work with. I always say to them, like, if I come across, I'm the first one to admit I'll sometimes come across quite brash or quite hard to those players, and guys and girls. The only reason I come across like that sometimes at times is because your improvement means the world to me. Now, if you don't improve, that reflects on me. I want you to improve. So the only way you're going to improve is by actually measuring and doing the work that we all agree on. So that's where that, again, I know I harp back onto it, but that joint accountability, it's critical.
Yeah.
It's absolutely critical.
All right, I've got some questions for you.
Go for it. Shoot.
All right. So questions for you. So from Tyrone from TPR Golf Academy. It's a pretty broad one. Tyrone he's been on the podcast before, actually. Sure. He's a lovely guy. He lives in Thailand. Yep. And he's actually about as jacked as you too, to be honest with you.
There you go.
There you go. How do you go about designing individual practice plans for your elite players? Bit of a broad question.
Yeah, so that comes back to pretty much everything that we've just discussed. So individualized basically just means shrinking the gaps between their biggest areas of their biggest possibilities for improvement. So if a player, let's use that girl as an example. She's outperformed, so driving category, she's averaging 75% fairways off the tee, but she's 20 yards behind female scratch. Okay, so individualized practice plan means she needs to work on speed. Again, so if I don't know what the player is doing versus their benchmark, we can't individualize it. It becomes very cookie cutter. So basically what I do with every single player I work with, I give them a circles account. I get them to enter 5 rounds of data, and once 5 rounds of data is entered, I do an evaluation of their game, and that's where then basically we get the opportunity to go, okay, here is your practice plan relative towards your performance. So that, again, they have their individual performance practice plan, and then they'll have their individual practice plan based off their technical skill development, which I host through Coach Now or whatever platform it may be.
That's so great. And you're just taking out so much doubt. Like, you know the answer. Yeah. And what I was thinking about before, actually, I think it's come to me now, right, is that when you sometimes can come across a bit brash, in my experience, when that happens to me as well, it's because I've been through this situation 100 times before with a student, or 1,000 times. We know what the answer, we know what needs to happen. Yeah. It's like, there's no ifs, no buts, no maybes. This has actually got to fucking happen. And it might sound like I'm coming across rude. It's got to happen.
No, 100%. I just deeply care about the players I work with. It comes down to those relationships. You're a student, but you're someone who I want to see succeed as well. So that that human factor of, I want you to do well, and for you to do well, we're in this together. So that's part of the nature of the beast. And
I teach an elite player from from Ireland, Dublin, and he's about 15 now. He's off scratch. He's a good golfer, and I keep asking him, he's only little, right? How's your speed training going? Like, because he's got a GC quad. I go, like, we've got to get to 300. Like, you will not be playing with those guys on TV unless you hit at 300. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
That journey's got to start now. Like, you have to get at 300. Like, it's not, oh, I'll deal with that later on. We got to get you to 300 yards. Mm-hmm. It's just got to happen. All right. Chef Jamie Pierce, I'm not too sure if you know him. Does he get time to actually play himself?
Not a lot. Short answer.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, short answer is not a lot. Basically, the weekends roll around, and I just value time with my family more than anything else. Preceding having my daughter, preceding having Stella, my wife, is a very good golfer, and
Mm.
so it was always really enjoyable to go and play with her on the weekend, even just 9 holes here and there. That being said, there would not be a day goes by where I don't hit golf balls
Yeah, same.
or
Same.
wedge it or
Yeah.
putt it or whatever it may be. So if you said to me, go and play this afternoon, I wouldn't feel out of place going and playing just because we're
Mm.
hitting golf shots all the time. But do I get to play and enjoy that experience for myself these days much? No. Do I want that to change? Yes.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I understand that too, Rich. I'm the same. Like people ask me all the time. I go, I'd rather spend time with my kids at the
Yeah.
beach than play
Yeah.
golf. You know what I mean? Like 150, like 100%. It's not even a
I'm just
question.
invested in 24/7. So sometimes
Yeah.
that's when that Sunday rolls around. It's my opportunity just to hit the off switch.
Tell me about it. All right, so Jack Kessel actually said something. I think he pretty much answered this. So he said he's a man of habit. What pushes him to continually get better and improve?
That question of your why again. I think once habits are formed, again, it's the feelings that it gives you.
Yes.
Um, I enjoy learning more about golf on whatever level it may be, just because I love learning and I like the
Mm.
feeling of being at the forefront. I love working with good players, and when it comes to
Yeah.
my own stuff in the gym, I just love the feeling of feeling good, feeling healthy.
I, you know what? And there's two, obviously, I think we're quite similar in that respect. Is that like learning anything around golf that can better our players? It's not hard work. Like it's not for us. Like it's like we actually enjoy doing it, right? Like
100%.
sitting down and for me talking to Stephen Giuliano about P2 to P4, whatever. I could do it for 5 hours straight. Like it's not an actual problem.
It's a
For
passion,
me, I
right?
like doing
Yeah.
that.
I mean,
Yeah, yeah, I like.
tomorrow night I'm hosting a webinar for the Swiss PGA, and I can't wait to do it. It's only going to run for an hour or so, but it's a great opportunity for me to
Mm,
every single time I get the opportunity to present something. It's a
mm,
chance for me to reflect on basically where my current knowledge base actually is, and
yeah.
where I
Mm.
need to learn more, and even our conversations. I'm taking out little nuggets of information of what you're saying, mate. So it's anytime we get to bounce around and bounce information off our peers, we're going to become better coaches.
All right. Yeah, I agree. Do you know Jeremy Ward?
I don't.
He's the.
I do a little bit of mentoring for Jeremy. Yeah. So
Oh, do
yeah,
you? Do you? Well, that makes sense. He's got a bit of tongue in cheek
yeah.
here. How many bicep curls does a big unit do before filming IG content?
Only when I get to do a Zoom call with him every month, mate. But no,
Just grab
those
the resistant band.
that's it. Yeah, rip a few out, but no, Big Jeremy, he's doing a great job down at Oatlands in Sydney, and he's going to be
Is he?
he's a very good coach, and again I have the opportunity. He reached out to me and to learn more about coaching and what we do here at the
Yeah.
academy, and again that comes down
Nice.
to us as coaches and surrounding ourselves with like-minded people willing to share information, willing to learn, willing to get better. So
Yeah.
kudos to him for doing that, because not everyone wants to do it.
Yes. No, 100%. I agree. We're actually going to we're hosting a coach camp in Bali for golf
Great.
coaches around, and I think Stephen Giuliano is going to come as well. This is myself and Carrot and Stephen Giuliano.
Nice.
And yeah, we're looking forward to it, to kind of sharing some stuff. We've all got our own specialties. All right. So this is one of my regulars listens to the pod, Clint. It's a technical one. I'm not sure if you can answer. He said, have either of you had any swing thoughts on the right knee, specifically at impact?
Right knee. Right knee function at impact.
Trail
Yeah,
knee.
trail knee at impact. In terms of, it's a broad question. In terms of position of it, I think the trail knee, the function of the trail knee, the knee can flex and extend as a joint. And
Yep.
the position of the trail knee is going to be influenced a lot by basically ankle mobility and hip
Yep.
mobility, internal and external rotation. So depending on how the pelvis and the hip function moves, will dictate what that right knee looks like, as well as probably the amount of uh, vertical and rotational force that's placed out of the ground.
Yeah, so from a point of like where it could be, let's say the front of the kneecap where it's pointing, is what you're saying there is if the left side of the pelvis is ripped open, the lead side is more open, then that right knee is going to be looking more inward. Would you
One
agree?
would expect so. So if the pelvis looks more open, you've got more internal
Yep.
rotation into your lead hip, which would mean you've probably got more external rotation trail hip, which would mean the right foot hopefully is banking down a little more and the right knee's moving more toward the target.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's many factors that can go into it, but I think, and that's where by possibly working with your coach and working out, okay, why. Always ask yourself the question: why does something look like the way it does? What's the efficiency that's affecting it? And that's one of my factors from a coach perspective. I'm not a stylistic coach. I don't coach to a style. I coach to efficiency. So basically, what are the biomechanics allow the body to do? You know, the function of what the golf club's doing in movement. So, you know, how would it be through how the wrists move or how the body moves is going to influence so many different factors. So that particular player might want to answer that question based off an assessment of, or he needs to ask the question why it looks the way it does through the function of his golf swing.
Yes, and the question why, I believe there is a really important one, because I think a lot of people, like the recreational golfer who I might deal with, are heavily influenced by their playing partners, right? And if someone hits a bad shot, they'll say, oh, your hips are too slow or your hips are too fast or whatever, right? If someone ever says that to you, I always say to my students, reply with, why is that wrong? Why is that bad? Or why is it that my right foot comes up too early? Why is it bad? If they can't answer the reason why, then tell them to get nicked.
Absolutely, you know,
Essentially, because we see so many different patterns. Look at John Rahm's footwork compared to
yeah, you
Justin
know,
Thomas's
and
footwork.
there's matchups to everything that we do. You know, what's the club face doing? How the body functions? You know, if you get the face more open, the plane's got to be a little more, you know, whatever it may be. But yeah, there's always matchups, and that's where golf's pretty cool like that. Like everybody is different. We move differently. We learn differently, and yeah, just understanding yourself and getting a coach to help you helping you understand that. And bull flight's king. Understand why the bull flight does what it does.
100%. And yeah, 100%. If you listen to the podcast a lot, you'll understand that. So we talk about it a lot. That pretty much is the reason to why we make any adjustment.
Absolutely.
Whatever that thing's doing.
Yeah.
It's not because of look.
Yeah.
All right, two more questions. Do you ever eat takeaway food? And if you do, what's your favorite?
Yes, I do. And it would be Indian.
Oh, what do you go with?
I'm a chicken tikka masala operator. Yeah, probably.
Yes.
Look, that would be the go-to.
Do you jump into a naan bread or not?
I am not a big fan of naan bread. No, more of the more the either tandoor chicken or chicken tikka masala would be my go-to.
Is that because it doesn't fit into your carbohydrates?
No, that goes out the window on those Sunday nights. It's normally after a few too many good red wines on a Saturday, to be honest, Dave.
You know what's funny is Jay Kelly. I don't know if you know Jay Kelly, golf coaching from the UK, London. Jay Kelly's a good friend of mine. He was actually on the podcast this week too, and he said the same thing. Curry.
Yeah.
I don't know if he said tikka masala, but he's into it. All right, last one. It's a bit of a deep question. What is golf to you, Richard?
Golf is my life. Golf.
It is, isn't it?
It is. I live it, I eat it, I breathe it, sleep it. It's just deeply, deeply important to me, and I get a huge amount of satisfaction from seeing people improve and enjoy the game. And on the other side of the equation, I just love learning more and more about it. So it's it's as simple. It's taken me all around the world. I'm grateful for the game of golf. You know, I've seen there's not many countries I haven't been to because of golf. It's taking me to places that are I'm just deeply grateful for, and hopefully that just keeps on. And it's you just never know what's around the corner with golf as well. You know, so. Next thing, a player qualifies for a tournament, and you're off to a different part of the world, or Justice has got the invite into the Augusta National Women's Amateur this year, and that it falls directly on my 40th birthday. So hopefully, walking over Rays Creek on my 40th birthday won't be too bad this year.
That's
Yeah,
goosebumps. That's
so
goosebumps. Have you been to Augusta before?
we were there in 2014, so the year after Adam won, when Bubba won.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
and I said to Alison, I said, I don't want to come back to this place until I'm coaching someone here. So hopefully this year is
Woo.
the year that happens. But it's a there's I always try to, if you haven't been, you got to try and get there. It is just the most
Happening.
special place on the planet. Yeah.
Yeah, it's happening. Like I've had friends of mine approach me about doing like tour groups and stuff. I'm like, nah. I shouldn't say that. Sorry, for tour groups listening, I might do it if you ask me. But I want to do it like with my buddies,
Yeah.
or with my wife's not a golfer, but if she wants to come, she can.
Yeah.
She can come. But I want to experience the best of it, not having to service
Yeah.
anyone, and really enjoy it.
It is something
I'd love
else.
to.
Yeah, it is. You got to do it.
Hey, where can people get you? And are you still doing online lessons, Richard? Can people get you online?
I do a little bit. I help some people out online. It's just basically due to my schedule, I don't do a huge amount. That being said, you can always contactable through, I guess, Instagram's probably the easiest. Richard Woodhouse Golf.
Yeah.
Here at KDV Sports Golf Academy, I'm here basically all day, every day. So I can coach face to face here. But if you have any online inquiries, they can easily get me through the social media channels, and I'm more than happy to always give advice or reach out or put people in contact with like-minded people who can help them out in any way possible.
I'll put all that below for sure, 100%. Now, for coaches listening, you mentioned there with Jeremy Ward that you were doing some coaching mentoring.
Yeah.
Is that something that you're still doing? Like
It is, yeah.
Is that an open book
Yeah,
still?
absolutely it is. I've had coaches reach out, and they, we just jump on Zoom calls and we run through some of his players' swings and discuss cause and effect of why he coaches the way he does, and he takes information from me, and we share a lot of the topics we covered through this pod. We basically run through, and again, that's a coach education is something that I deeply enjoy doing, whether it be through our conversations, mate, or whether it be through tomorrow doing some stuff with the Swiss PGA or different PJs around the world, presenting to them, and again, that's part of it. That challenges me to obviously keep up skilled, and again, I get to learn from the other coaches as well. So, coach mentoring is something something that I do for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy it too. Like, I enjoy what I get to do. I have about 5 or 6 that I help out. Some from a technical aspect thing, but more about communicating and dealing with players and how to do online coaching as well. It's get a good kick out of it, like when someone succeeds with a player or when someone succeeds in their business and they can, take a day off to spend more time with their family because their online business has gone well. Like, that gets me going.
100%. Yeah. And the relationships that last a lifetime too, like I'm currently going through, we're actually recruiting a new coach down here right now and also another trainee. So, I mean, I get the opportunity to meet coaches all the time. And if there's any coaches out there that, that want to do that and reach out, then they're welcome to get at me for sure.
Love it. All right, Richard, you've been great with your time, mate. I appreciate you coming on,
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me, Topes.
Nice.
All right,
Thanks,
have
mate.
a great day. Cheers, buddy.
You too.